Oh, right after it starts. Hey, also I just checked. We haven't been banned from Twitter. Yay. And also we haven't been banned from Twitch. And also we haven't been banned from YouTube. Yay.
Yay.
Oh, what, over last week's episode?
Yeah, it was like fucking nobody gives a shit about dead baby jokes. Wait, it wasn't even a dead baby joke. It was just a straight up baby joke. It's fine. It's all good. All is fair in love and internet. So yeah, it's been a great week here. Hello everybody, welcome to Chonkwij podcast. I'm joined tonight by Masami, OmegaConstruct, and Zero Burn. Craziest thing happened last Thursday. My hairdresser Denise got engaged.
That's amazing. I'm so happy for her.
She's finally gonna get married. She's a really nice lady.
Aw.
Also, I heard that Ukraine got invaded.
Or tried to be.
Fuck Putin. We stand with Ukraine. Putin is a crazy old man. He's got a hard-on for Soviet fascism and megalomania. Just fuck Putin. I believe we were all firmly in solidarity with Ukraine.
Yeah.
I don't know. We have been living in the world of Ukraine war updates in the Discord for the past 5 days. There's been a lot of news. We've talked a lot about it amongst ourselves. And Jesus fucking Christ. I don't think anybody expected Ukraine to put up this good of a fight. Which was a serious mistake on Russia's part.
I don't think anybody expected Russia to be this fucking under-equipped and, just did in general a horrible job of planning and preparing for this invasion.
That is something that I think is just so colossally fucking embarrassing for Putin specifically. Is that we have all in the West here, I grew up just taking everybody's word for it that Russia is a superpower, and superpowers have really good armies. And he took 150,000 of Russia's troops and he put them on the border of Ukraine. Apparently he didn't tell them jack shit. On the morning of the invasion, he's just like, we're invading Ukraine today. And they were like, well, we don't really want to do that, but okay. And then supply lines fell short. Troops ran out of food, water, vehicles ran out of fuel.
I think on that note, the most amusing and awesome things I have seen are the videos of Ukrainian farmers towing away the equipment that has been abandoned.
Yeah, when shit runs out of fuel, the Russian army just abandons it and they keep on going, or they go back or whatever, and so that vehicle, the vehicles now belong to the Ukrainian people. And that was something I think Omega posted, or somebody posted this today. It was just TikTok videos of Ukrainian citizens educating each other over TikTok on how to operate Russian military vehicles. This is how you drive them. After you put your fuel in them, because you have fuel, this is how you drive them away. If you don't have a tow truck.
Which is just amazing.
This is just... I don't know if Putin was trying to show the West the might of the Russian army, but he has just failed miserably here. And that's not to say that it's going to stay that way. In fact, I think CNN was reporting a while ago, a bunch of news organizations, not only CNN, were reporting that they're moving in a specific type of thermal weapon, or not a thermal weapon. It's not thermite or
thermobaric.
Thermobaric
Weapons, which are pretty much have been found to be they're relatively recent invention in the grand scheme of war and weaponry, and they're pretty much the next most damaging thing after nuclear weapons. And
their use should be a war crime.
I mean, they're pretty damn powerful.
The whole way that a thermobaric weapon works is that it will explode and it will suck out. It is an implosive device, if you want to think about it in those terms. It sucks out the oxygen from a surrounding area, so it will remove the oxygen from any part of the human body that is exposed. So your lungs, your insides just devoid of oxygen, and it is apparently, it should be a war crime to use that shit. That is, everybody who has talked about these weapons has said that it's an appalling way to kill someone. But those weapons have been seen, or the launching platforms for those weapons have been seen being trucked in. So, no matter how much Russia wants to say that they're not attacking the civilian population, they're absolutely attacking the civilian population. There are going to be a lot of casualties.
Oh, there are videos that have been out today of the Russian, I believe it's the Grad system, which is basically just a widespread dumbfire rocket barrage, basically, and just launching indiscriminately on a residential complex in Kharkiv, which is one of the it's like the second most populated Ukrainian city, I believe, and it's very close to the Russian border. It's one of their far eastern cities, and yeah, so they're just indiscriminately attacking anybody, civilians, military, yeah.
There was also footage put out today of, it might have been that weapon, or it might have been an air bombardment by plane, of the Russian forces bombarding a column of civilian cars, in which several civilians and I believe 3 children were just straight up killed. No reason whatsoever. It's just the Russians, someone, I believe it was a military correspondent for Al Jazeera, who made the comment that the Russian army has never been known for discriminating against any military or civilian target. They're not really known for their position.
Or even targeting their own civilians if it serves a purpose.
That's what people are talking about. If anyone, we're all old enough to remember Russia's war with Chechnya. Some of the younger generation is definitely not old enough to know about that, but it's really worth reading up on what Russia did in Chechnya at this point, because that was... I don't understand why that just wasn't straight up considered a genocide. They fucking rolled in there and they just wiped out civilian populations, because Russia was like, okay, Chechnya is ours now. And I don't think we really did much to stop them at the time. I think that was another kind of shameful period in U.S. history where we sat back and we didn't really do much. I know we're issuing sanctions and shit like that now, but I hope that there's a whole bunch of stuff going on that we don't know about, where soldiers are taking leave from the U.S. Army and flying over to Ukraine and joining the foreign forces, because Ukraine did put out an open call to any people with military experience that want to come to Ukraine and fight for Ukraine. You are apparently welcome in the country, and welcome in the, just contact your local Ukrainian embassy and tell them you want to come. They'll take care of it.
They've even gone so far as expanding letting prisoners out of jail if they have military history and are willing to serve.
They have, yeah. Zelensky announced yesterday that it was a difficult moral decision to make, but given the war-torn status of the country, it is necessary. But Jesus Christ.
Well, Ukraine also put out an open call for a cyber army, and they are looking for hackers to attack Russian government entities, business entities, all over the place. And
the issue that they're running into there, and I spoke about well, Omega, we were talking about people in Russia trying to get access to the internet outside of Russia, and I told you that they've been cracking down on VPNs and proxies and the like for a long time. The institution that has been at the head of that and responsible for that is called Roscommander, and they, right now, Roscommander itself is specifically making it difficult for not only people to get outside access from within Russia, but get inside access from beyond Russia. So that's the difficult part of the cyber operations right now. However, I did think it was hilarious earlier this week when Anonymous leaked the entire database of the Russian Ministry of Defense. Good job, Anonymous. That was fucking great. Oh, boy.
Well, it's what's really interesting is to see how this is very much this is very much turning into an international thing. It is very much the entire world unifying, and not just militarily, but also culturally. You've got the International Ice Hockey Federation that has banned Russia and Belarus. You've got FIFA saying that no national teams are no longer going to be allowed to compete. You've got the Olympics announcing that they've considered banning Russia because they violated the Olympic truce. You got Disney no longer going to be releasing anything in Russia. YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, pretty much, and Facebook have all demonetized every platform that the Russians have in Western social media, and have been like shutting down propaganda accounts left and right. So the response is massive.
You also
the
you
world
posted
is not just standing by and letting it happen.
you posted this one that I have up on screen right now, but this follows the International Judo organization, or whatever they're called, revoking Putin's honorary presidential status. Now Putin's black belt has been revoked by the International Taekwondo organization.
Yep.
So there's serious stuff going on, and there's kind of other funnier stuff going on. However, it is all in the name of solidarity for Ukraine. So solidarity with Ukraine.
I gotta admit, I like the petty stuff. I kind of love that shit like the Taekwondo Federation and the Judo Federation are also like getting their say in.
Specifically because, it's targeted at Putin. Which I'm sure he's real broke up about all this stuff. But apparently, from the latest, whatever I watched from New York Times, I've been following New York Times, Al Jazeera, some CNN stuff, and BBC and Politico. But according to most of those, Putin is becoming more and more isolated. He's not surrounded by his inner circle anymore. He's still, as far as I know, locked up in his palatial estate.
Yeah, he's been there. It seems reports are saying that he's basically been there the whole time. And the joke has been that, like, Zelensky is there on the front lines fighting while Putin's hiding in his bunker. And today, in the UN,
right.
The Ukrainian, like, I mentioned this earlier today in the Discord, but I just want to reiterate that, like, Ukraine is doing an amazing job on the PR side of this war. Not only is their like Twitter account killing it, but like they've managed to basically unite the entire internet behind them. You've got their president, who is basically being portrayed as the most badass human being of the 21st century.
Mhm.
The most iconic line, I think, that will be said this decade is, I don't need a ride, I need ammo. What a fucking badass. And now their ambassador to the UN has taken off the gloves and fucking no holds barred. On the first day of the invasion, he said to the UN, there is no purgatory for war criminals. They go straight to hell. And today, he said, I'm paraphrasing here, but responding to Putin putting the country's nuclear forces on alert, said now Putin is activating the nuclear forces. if this man wants to kill himself, he doesn't need to use his nuclear arsenal. He can just do it in a bunker like that man did in Berlin in May of 1945. The UN ambassador to Ukraine, or from Ukraine, told the UN, or told Putin in front of the UN that he should just kill himself. Amazing.
It was fucking great. The comments that he made after that I think are coming up on screen right now was an interesting question of UN procedure that I didn't even know things worked like that, so I'm learning all sorts of new things about how the UN operates. Apparently, after the fall of the Soviet Union, the premier, Khrushchev at the time, I don't know, I was 4 years old, asked the UN if the Russian Federation could stay on, just, sort of like a tail end. I guess, they're technically a new nation now, but, if they could just stay in the United Nations in Russia's position, that would be great. And apparently the UN didn't object or just didn't talk about it, and it just sort of happened.
Well, Russia was recognized as the successor state to the USSR. And the other nations that were formerly in the USSR all agreed to letting Russia retain its Security Council seat as their, former representative and the successor state of their representation, which was the USSR for that point. So it's not like, again, this is just great messaging on the part of Ukraine and just great PR. Like, no, nobody in the United Nations, at no point did the United Nations vote to have Russia join the United Nations, because Russia didn't exist when the United Nations was formed, and when the Soviet Union fell, they were basically granted the status of replacing Russia, but they were never formally applied. They didn't go through all of the work that nations have to go through today should they want to apply to the UN. They didn't get voted in by the General Assembly. So is it a legitimate thing? Like, is there legitimately a chance that the UN could be like, we never actually did this, we're just going to kick you out? No, there's not. But it's kind of funny, though.
It's very memeable.
And that's where Ukraine's winning. Like, the entire world is, and not just governments of the world, the people of the world have all just kind of locked arms and staring straight at Russia and straight at Putin. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens next.
Unfortunately, latest reports before this came out, when I went to dinner, there was a line of Russian military vehicles north of Kiev that spanned more than 40 miles. And it's a commonplace military tactic to try and minimize supply line disruptions, to just create a physical line from one point to another. This was all detailed by a military analyst on either this was General Spider on CNN. I always remember that name because that's a great name. But yeah, it looks like the siege on Kiev is going to begin today, tomorrow, and things are going to get much more difficult. However, the Ukrainian army and the Ukrainian civilian army, the numbers that are coming out of the number of people who are fighting to retain Kiev are much larger than I thought they were. The number that kept on popping up was 900,000 civilian forces versus the 150,000 Russian troops that are coming in. And of course, most people, I automatically have the thought in my mind to civilians fighting against professional soldiers. Yeah, that's not going to go very well for them. But again, just to reiterate what we said not moments ago, the Russian army has been pretty embarrassing in their performance so far. And I think that's going to really set in. I am really worried that that's going to set in, and they're going to get really pissed off about that, and they are going to start using worse weapons to try and kill the civilian population, to try and demoralize the Ukrainian civilian fighters. I think it's really shitty that Russia has been performing this badly and that their military is apparently this embarrassing, and they're probably still gonna take over the country. Of course, at that point, they're going to be fighting a Ukrainian insurgency for God knows how long. Yeah, this is nuts.
It's one of those things. Sorry, I was away for quite some time. Um, the I heard somebody say it the other day, and it's like, you've got, yes, okay, Ukrainian civilians are the ones who are fighting, and they're not as trained as the Russian military, but the Russian military is essentially a bunch of drunk teenagers.
It's very young, I heard too.
Yeah, I think they said that the average age of the kids crossing the border, or the military forces crossing the border, is 19.
That was I can't speak to the average age, but I can tell you that yeah, the story that, or a story that I read a couple days ago, was that a number of Russian soldiers had been captured by Ukrainian forces, and that those soldiers a lot of them were very young, and the Ukrainians were actually allowing these people to call their families to just say, "Hey, I'm alive, I'm okay," which again, on the part of the Ukraine, if you want to call it PR or you want to call it propaganda, either is technically true. But on that part, Ukraine is fucking rocking this shit. It's like Russia isn't even trying to sway world opinion. It's all just falling into the court of Ukraine, or it's falling into the bailiwick of Ukraine. And their Twitter is fucking exploding. The national Twitter of Ukraine is putting out stuff, multiple tweets every single day, with reports and ways that people can help. So definitely go check out the official Twitter of Ukraine. And the stories coming out of there, CNN reports specifically a lot of the interviews that I've seen on CNN from the ex-president of Ukraine, from several of the top generals that are fighting in the city of Kiev right now, are just fucking amazing.
Like, if Ukraine survives this to have another election, like, that president is going to absolutely fucking win re-election.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Yeah, that's.
I mean, fuck, I can't vote, and I'd vote for him.
Yeah. One of the more difficult areas of the Ukraine war right now, or the Ukraine invasion, is people trying, the civilian populations that are trying to get out. Hey, welcome back.
Awesome.
Weird.
Good. Okay. I was about to talk about the civilian populations who are trying to leave. I think we passed the official number of 500,000 refugees trying to get out of Ukraine. The real number is likely much, much higher. But the people trying to get out of there, and the amount of territory that they have to travel, the lines of cars, and the weight to basically get on a train or get on a bus to be evacuated to Poland or Hungary or Romania or Moldova, any of them is really difficult for a lot of people, and a lot of foreign embassies are screaming bloody murder because their people can't get out, and they're doing the best that they can to get their people out. But we kind of knew this was coming for a long time, so
Yeah,
maybe
embassies have
Nigeria should have done something back in December.
Embassies have been saying for 2 weeks, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 2 weeks before everything started, it was like, okay, guys, it's time to leave. Like, you guys shouldn't be here. Shit's about to go down. And it was clear. Like, America, fucking Biden was talking about it for like a week, publicly saying, yeah, we know that Russia's about to invade. Like, it's whose fault is it? Any of these nations at any time could have had their embassies call out to everybody that they knew was in the nation and said, hey, it's time to get the fuck out. Get to the embassy today and we'll get you on a plane. They didn't. They wait until war goes. Oh, come on. It's just dumb.
There are also a lot of I've been bumping into a lot of this on Twitter, on Ukraine's official Twitter account, and thank God Twitter seems to be smart enough to be able to omit this stuff from official replies, and they tag it with this is offensive content or just wrong content. There are images out there that people are trying to put out saying that foreigners are being beaten at the borders while trying to leave Ukraine. None of that has been verified. None of that can be verified because most of the pictures that are taken or the videos that are taken don't really show all that much. And the ones that do look like they could have been taken anywhere at any time. So the other thing, the practical thing that popped into my mind when I saw something like that is why? What's the point of that? Why would anyone even think to do that? What would anybody be accomplishing by beating a foreign exchange student from India who's trying to leave across the border?
Get home.
Yeah, and then go home. We're like, okay, fine. It's a good idea. Get out.
Stupid. Just, I agree with Omega. This shit should have been taken care of weeks ago. Weeks ago. But no. Fucking I am one that, okay, I am not okay with illegal immigration. I am okay with 100% legal immigration. I would, if I had the money, I would personally fly a plane as close as I could get it to Ukraine. I would load up as many Ukrainian refugees as possible, and I would bring them here to the US. Asylum granted. Fuck you, Putin. Kiss my fat white ass.
They're refugees. That's legit.
I'm sorry. At this point, if us nuking them into the fucking Stone Age was a fucking option, I would say do it. But
see,
that's
I don't
the
think
whole
glassing Russia is going to be an option, but I understand the sentiment.
This is something that I was talking with Doc about yesterday. Nukes were a mistake. Just the invention of them, the discovery of them, because sometimes a country needs to get its ass kicked.
Yeah.
And right now,
Yes.
Russia just needs to get its ass kicked. Like, sometimes you get to that point where that's just what needs to happen. And you know what? I'll fully say it. There's probably been times in the recent past where America needed to get its ass kicked. And, hey, we kind of did in Afghanistan. But
Vietnam, too.
Yeah. But more recently, Afghanistan. We have a record of getting our asses kicked when we try and force a way of government on other places that don't want it. Funny how that works.
Yay, imperialism.
Russia needs the world needs to just unite together in brotherhood to kick Russia's ass. But because of nukes, we can't. And you were talking about, like, oh, you thought superpowers have great militaries? No, superpowers have nukes. Russia has a 1980s military.
It's painfully obvious now. Yes, they do. And that's the other thing. The vehicles that have been destroyed that people can get really up close to and camera crews from, news agencies can report on, I haven't seen a single modern piece of military equipment yet. It's all Soviet-era military technology that has been kept up.
A lot of the commentary I've been seeing online is that this is sort of the Russian strategy of life is cheap and we've got old crap. So this first wave of the war has been
All the
that Russia
disposable, quote
throwing
unquote stuff.
its youngest and least trained soldiers with their oldest and lowest, like the least useful equipment. Send them in, let them soften up the enemy, let them do some early scouting, get whatever intel we need, let us, establish some sort of foothold, and then send in the professional army with the newer equipment and whatnot. And now we see this, 40-mile long column driving towards Kyiv. So who knows if that's the case? It is without question. It goes without question that like Putin is royally pissed with how poorly things are going. So
didn't he recently fire somebody? I could have swore I heard that he had fired or accepted the resignation of some important military individual due to shit that's been going on.
You could be thinking of Belarus, where their Minister of Defense or some such government official was hesitant to call Russia's invasion of Ukraine a war. I think he almost called it an invasion, and that opinion got him removed from government, and their laughably democratic government is considering what to do with him right now. Belarus is not a fucking democracy, by the way. Belarus is just as fascist as Russia.
It's a total puppet state.
Also, wasn't there like a Chechen warlord that just recently got killed by the Ukrainian military? I also saw a article on that too as well, but I wasn't quite sure if that had actually been verified or not.
If you can find it, I'll throw it up on stream here. I'm watching Discord this week for what you guys post. I already posted you 2 memes. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, I don't. I heard about you're talking about Kadyrov.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think he got killed. I don't think he actually went. He's like more or less the warlord in control of Chechnya.
Hold up. Chechen warlord who assisted an anti-gay purge killed in Ukraine. A Chechen warlord and close advisor to the region's leader, Ramzan Kadyrov, was killed Saturday in Ukraine as Russia continues its invasion of the country. Russian human rights groups have said the advisor had been involved with the persecution of LGBTQ people. Yeah.
What's the source?
I will send it to you right here. I don't know the actual source itself, like as in like I don't know the actual article.
Because if Kadyrov was dead, I imagine that'd be all over.
Yeah, that's why I'm
news
like
everywhere, and it's I do a Google search for Kadyrov, and it's talking about him sending his forces.
Yeah, I got a few articles
about him going. That's interesting.
Yeah, the Advocate website is basically a like LGBTQ news website of some sort. It's of that flavor.
Here, let me check to see if we can get this fact checked, because I'm like super curious about this.
Politico might have a fact check on this.
That's why I'm looking.
Yeah,
the
a Chechen
article
warlord
that
close.
the Advocate. Yeah. Go ahead.
A Chechen warlord and a close advisor to the region's leader, Ramzan Kadyrov, was killed Saturday in Ukraine. So a close advisor, not Kadyrov himself.
Right, yeah. Basically,
Magomed Tushev was killed during a battle at Antov Airport.
Yeah, so this, it's not saying Kadyrov was killed. It's saying one of Kadyrov's, associates was killed. One of his close advisors.
This is just a brief aside. There have been numerous human rights violations across Chechnya. This article specifically details a whole bunch of appalling shit that they've been doing against LGBTQ people.
Oh yeah, no, Chechnya is a backwards place.
It's
Like
just
a lot
I've
of
never
those
I've never
Soviet
understood this.
republics, a lot of those Soviet republics, those are some of that's actually where some of the most extreme Islamic beliefs are in the world. Chechnya, Dagestan, in that region, they are. I mean, they've been fighting. They fought 2 wars against Russia, and kind of won both of them. And it was to preserve their religion, more or less.
I think I'm gonna subscribe for 6 issues of The Advocate and give it to the Eliteness. It's $12 for 6 issues of this magazine, which entirely supports the LGBT community and LGBTQ journalism. Fuck yeah, why not?
Yeah, as far as those issues goes, it's fairly legitimate as far as posting about that. They've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, it's the other thing on the front here, Omega already mentions the cyber warfare. It amuses me nonstop. That's so Russia's hardware in terms of an army is, we've seen so far, a lot of it is aged. I have no doubt that they have more modern stuff as well, but their hardware and their manpower is obviously not. It's embarrassing, quite frankly. The way that I guess they thought they were going to make up for this was cyber warfare and the ability to disrupt communications, because that is a very effective tool when you're waging a war. And so the Russian cyber army, whatever the fuck they call themselves, launched a whole bunch of malware attacks in Ukraine to quote, try to stress test the system. And apparently it was going not terribly. And then Microsoft stepped in. Within 3 hours, Microsoft threw itself into the middle of a ground war in Europe from 5,500 miles away.
Well, that was actually, I think the article was saying that happened. They noticed it was happening before the invasion, and then they quickly went to worked with like the government and the EU and shit. Within hours, they're fucking giving this bug fix to half of the EU. That's insane.
Microsoft essentially said, "Fuck you, Russia. You're not going to get this shit done."
So
No
the
patching
article,
for you.
The article makes a very apt comparison, is in that Microsoft begun playing the role that Ford Motor Company did in World War II. If you, all of us, again, are old enough to know and to have read in World War II that the Ford Motor Company converted their automobile production lines to make Sherman tanks. And Microsoft has done a similar thing. They've been converting large sections of their company to battle malware attacks within Ukraine. Hopefully, I know that Microsoft has a lot of DoD contracts. I know that they contract with the government quite a bit, and I hope that they are also investigating offensive operations if they're not already engaged in offensive operations. And if I don't hear anything about that, that's just fine. Just let me know what's happening.
Didn't Elon Musk say that he was also offering several Starlink connections to people in Ukraine to help?
Yeah, he actually already arrived. He did activate Starlink in Ukraine and donated a bunch of terminals to the Ukrainian government. And I've seen pictures on social media of them getting delivered.
That's crazy.
I mean, at least he's putting himself to good use.
Yeah, he does something good once in a while.
I'm gonna guess he's just tired of his bad PR, and he's like, okay, I'm not actually a shit person, and this would actually be good for my image.
Or like, I'm a totally shit person, but this would be good for my image.
Yeah, either one. Like, I was giving him a tiny benefit of the doubt. Tiny.
I mean, I don't doubt that he doesn't think he's a shitty person. But I mean,
No,
how the son of a South African apartheid era emerald mine owner
yes,
to consider himself somehow self-made? Yeah. Yeah.
Where did your money come from again?
Dude,
Blood
actually,
emeralds?
Yeah, that's the funniest part too. Everybody knows what a blood diamond is, but you know, diamonds aren't the only thing
that come out of the ground.
Fucking blood emeralds. But yeah, he did. He positioned Starlink satellites over Ukraine to allow access to allow customers to access SpaceX satellite-based internet service, and then he shipped a whole bunch of terminals to Ukraine so that they could use them. Whether or not they are paying subscriptions is a different story.
I'm sure he'll invoice the government of Ukraine afterwards.
You
think I'm joking?
No, I don't. I really don't.
Joking. There's totally going to be an invoice at the end of that.
Oh, absolutely. And they're going to go, we can't pay this. And Elon will go, just owe me a favor.
Well, another thing worth mentioning is that I think the number came out today of the amount of money that the U.S. has been putting into Ukraine to help them build up their military, and I'm not going to say the number because I don't know off the top of my head if it's correct or not, but we are not the only nation who has been throwing money at Ukraine since this conflict started, or even before this conflict started. Invasion. It's not a conflict. It's a fucking invasion. But yeah, so the whole money doesn't solve problems or anything. Tons of fucking guns solve problems.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I know. Dude, I think that I am, but that's the most American thing I think I've ever said on a podcast.
So do you remember how right before it started, Germany was getting criticized because like they sent like 6,000 helmets or something like that? They were getting criticized for sending helmets.
Yeah, they were sending defensive equipment.
Germany is, they've got a distinct history where they are not trying to have like a war machine going there. So,
they know what they did.
Well, guess what? Germany just fucking racked up $100 million worth of military gear to give to them. So it's like, I've been seeing memes all day of like, oh God, you're really fucked now that you've got Germany getting back on the war path. So,
Yeah, the Ukrainian the German chancellor is really. I can only imagine what Angela Merkel would have done were she still in office, but this new guy.
I kind of wish she was.
This new guy is just Jesus Christ. He's pulled a full 360 before the invasion and after the invasion. After the invasion, now he seems pissed off.
Yeah, I think Putin was banking on a lot less of a reaction than he's gotten.
He was, and here's the point. To understand why Putin would do something like, first of all, I believe I have been on record saying that I did not think that Russia would invade Ukraine. I didn't think that they would pull this move because of exactly what's happening right now. Their economy is fucking collapsing. The ruble looks like it jumped out of a window. The foreign markets, even China, who is thank you. No, thank you for the meme, Zero. That was fucking great. Even Russia's the countries that are quote unquote close to Russia. Well, that's not entirely true. I suppose that Russia still has the full support of North Korea. God bless them. But yeah, even China, they have refused to call this invasion, and they say that Russia has legitimate security concerns that should have been addressed more seriously, blah, blah, blah. In the meantime, China's major foreign markets are divesting themselves from Russia. Even Russia's closest friends, their biggest powerful economic ally, is pulling out, and their economy is tanking, and a lot of people are already starting to feel it. A lot of Russian citizens are already starting to feel it. So, on record, I said it wouldn't happen because of these things, and I was wrong. He went ahead and he did it, and now we're seeing all this shit happen.
There's mounting pressure in Sweden and Denmark to join NATO. Like, yeah, those states have remained out of NATO for a while. I believe it was Sweden and Denmark, or maybe it was Sweden and Finland.
And Finland.
Yeah, so these nations have stayed neutral in with regards to NATO and Russia for a while. But even they are like, all right, time for NATO. Like, let's do it. So,
well, they feel very threatened, I'm sure. So,
yeah. Well, I saw there was a change.org is here in America. In Finland, they have something similar that's 50,000 signatures needs an official response, and it was to join NATO. And so there is a popular movement of at least some size. And yeah, I think 2014, Putin taking Crimea and starting a proxy war with the separatist factions in the Luhansk and Donetsk regions in Ukraine. The world just kind of let him do it. And I think it made him actually think that he could get away with this kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
It worked for Hitler.
Yeah, well, like, that's the thing. We just let him do it that time. So I think he expected us to just let him do it this time. And, he's kind of now realizing that the whole fucking world is super pissed. And,
hey, real quick, in gaming related news, Kosen and Doc, if you guys want to join in and look at my stream real quick, bad guys wielding good guy stuff.
Okie dokie, one moment.
Anyway, back to the conversation.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah.
Looks good. How far are you through the content?
This was the start of it.
Ah.
I'm such a fucking spaz. Yeah, all right. So, okay, going back to... What the fuck was that window doing there? All right.
Windowy things.
Yeah, windowy things. So yeah, Putin definitely did. I agree with you, Omega. To better understand why Putin would have done this in the first place, for anybody who isn't familiar with Putin or hasn't read a book or a biography or some shit written about him, he's fucking obsessed with the Soviet era empire. He has. That's why I say he's got a fucking boner for Soviet fascism and megalomania. He wants to be in charge. He wants to run his country like Kim Jong-un runs North Korea. He wants to be the family that's in charge of the Russian Federation and have all these satellite states and return to the glorious days of the Soviet Union, when coincidentally Ukraine suffered the worst famine in European history because the Soviets wanted all their food and they were like, fuck you guys. Another reason for Ukraine to really dislike Russia. Anyway, getting back to this, he has Belarus. It should be just Belarussia. And he's got that. He's got one satellite state. He has some smaller territories that the Russian Federation has annexed. There is actually a video of Putin basically bawling out not bawling out. He's having a conversation in session with his chief spy about the recognition that the Soviet Union will give to certain territories, whether or not they should be absorbed into the Russian Federation, or whether or not Russia should acknowledge their independence and have them as satellite states. These are small territories on the Russian border. But that video is hilarious because his chief spy master is obviously fucking terrified of Putin. I have a feeling that Putin's entire government is just fucking terrified of him, and they will say whatever he wants them to say, and that's why he is partially delusional. But the other reason why he's delusional...
completely surrounded by yes men.
Yeah, the other reason why he's delusional is because he really thinks that the old Soviet Union was the best Soviet Union, and he wants it back, and he wants to prove to the West that democracy does not work. The European Union is a failed institution, and that the UN is powerless. I mean, they mostly are. And that NATO is just completely ineffective. And I think you're right. He honestly thought that the reaction wouldn't be this big, and that he would not have to deal with the kind of shit that he's dealing with all these member nations of NATO and the European Union sending Ukraine military supplies, actual offensive military supplies, instead of just humanitarian aid. So he's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Well, I saw a photo earlier today of a meeting that he was having at this large ass fucking table. It was him sitting on one end and everybody else. The man is terrified of COVID, or is terrified of disease in general. He won't let anybody come within, if I remember hearing correctly, like 40 feet of him, because he is absolutely terrified of getting COVID.
There have been rumors that I've been seeing, and I don't know how legitimate they are, but there have been rumors that he seems sick or has something ailing him physically, and that could also be part of why he's like trying to make his legacy now, kind of thing. I don't know how true that is. That's kind of stuff.
It's certainly some sort of legacy. Not a great one, but
yeah, as far as
people have been saying, Trump has been sick with like dementia and shit for how long now? So
yeah, that's entirely possible. He does sound when he talks. He sounds like he has dementia. Whether or not that's true or not, yeah, different story. But
yeah,
want to go back to that picture of Trump's personal physician? Take a look at that guy.
That guy oozes the same sort of energy that John McAfee oozes.
Oh yeah, but I'm sure he knows he's got to know what he's talking about, right? He's a doctor. It's like me. I obviously know what I'm talking about. I'm a doctor.
I
mean, I would trust you more than I would trust that guy.
And both of us would probably give you bad advice.
Well, at least you partially have my best interest in mind. Partially.
Yep. No, that's true. But yeah, so Putin's threat about people not his whole nuclear escalation thing to discourage people from interfering with the Ukraine operation is obviously really not working. When I pull up this article about Finland and Sweden brushing off warnings from neighboring Russia that their possible joining of NATO would trigger serious military political consequences from Moscow for the two countries. Yeah, apparently they don't give a fuck, and they have asked, or they are.
I mean, at this point, Russia's involved themselves in a fairly significant conflict. So at this point, like, unless they plan on stopping to then threaten those two countries, like, I think, like,
see, to me, the really scary thing is that Russia is just under the impression that it gets to dictate what other sovereign nations can do. If another country wants to join NATO, why does Russia think why do they deserve to decide that? And that's what's scary. That mentality is very scary, and is the worst kind of imperialism that America is also guilty of.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. We've done plenty of this shit. Of course, I didn't actually vote or support for any of it, but still, it's partially on me. I'm a citizen. All right, yeah, reading through the rest of this stuff.
I just my whole thing is sure, Russia's going to threaten people and say, they're going to finger wag and they're going to say, hey, don't involve yourself. You don't want to mess with us. And they're going to say that to the wrong people. And they're going to say that to the wrong country, and then, they're going to start hearing credence, and somebody's going to get fucked. And it's going to be Russia.
One can only hope. I don't know.
Nukes are a huge they're a huge deterrent. That's
what I think is problem. I think it might come down to, and this is my fear, is that the rest of the world is going to have to get involved, and then we're going to find out if Putin really would use nukes. If somebody didn't use nukes on him, like, would he respond to conventional warfare with nukes? And that's the threat. That's always been the threat. But we don't know if he actually would. And
well, there's also the threat of the fact that probably a lot of their nuclear arsenal is on a dead man's switch. So even if we were to glass Russia, they would probably still fire back, even if there was nobody left.
That's what I mean. I'm not talking about a nuclear assault on Russia. I'm saying, like, if we supported militaristically in Ukraine, if we helped defend Ukraine, not if we launched nukes at Moscow, nothing like that. That's what I think might be the test that we see happen.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know. I do actually kind of agree with that, because that's actually kind of like if the U.S. or NATO themselves step in to defend Ukraine by putting boots on the ground from Russia, I have this feeling that Putin will just be like, fuck it, and then either glass Ukraine or glass, most of the Europe, and then mutually assured destruction from there. It would take.
That is an odd thought, or not an odd thought, just more of a terrifying thought. If nukes went off in Russia, would they be targeting Ukraine to just end the conflict and be like, fine, fuck it? Or would it be a preemptive strike on any country that could launch back at Russia? Because I don't think... This is a weird thing. There was a guy speaking outside of a Security Council meeting in Washington today, and I am not going to remember his name, but he said that he doubts that a nuclear strike would be an option because, and I remember his words very specifically, the United States has put a very strong deterrent in place against that. I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to mean. Unless he's talking about we've moved all of our nuclear submarines into position where they can strike very quickly against the Russian mainland. Even in that case, I don't think... If Russia fired off 10 nukes and they were all going towards Ukraine, I don't think that anybody else would launch off any nukes. Just because the fear.
I don't think they would. Why would they ever nuke Ukraine, though?
Yeah, they want it for some reason. They're destroying the thing that they want.
I know the exact reason why they want Ukraine. Ukraine is actually sitting on massive deposits of natural gas and oil.
It's not just the natural gas and the oil, it's also between Ukraine and Russia, that is a third of the world's wheat supply. They are a massive breadbasket.
Yeah, that too. And also, if I remember correctly, Ukraine is exactly on that path of the trans-Europe Asian plain, where basically there's this massive amount of flat land that goes through part of Europe, Poland, and Ukraine up into Russia, where it's essentially one big massive flat land, and then of course on either side of it is water, mountains, and all the other kind of shit. And essentially to claim Ukraine would put and basically using that as a massive buffer and wall against any potential land invasion from Europe or anything as such, because the majority of times when Europe has gone to fuck with Russia in the past, whether if it's Napoleon, Hitler, or whatever, they always have to go through Ukraine.
But see, that's why I think it's such an antiquated way of thinking, or such a backwards way of thinking about that, because the world is infinitely more modernized now than it was the last time that Europe even considered putting forces into Russia. A land war is not strictly necessary anymore when you have the air superiority that a lot of European nations have, that the United States has. Again, we have missile carriers all across the ocean. We have the ability to just drop troops in over the air. Of course, that requires clearing anti-air artillery. So yeah, ground invasion is always part of the equation, but it's the whole satellite state thing, the whole buffer between Russia and Europe is such an old thought to me, and
it
the
is
fact
an
that
old
Putin is
thought,
obsessed with it.
Yeah, I agree that there is definitely a certain obsession with it, which makes me wonder the reasoning behind it. And I don't know. I'm sure that there are military trained individuals out there that go to those expensive military academies that we've got here in the United States and all across the world that could probably better explain it than we could, but
Probably.
it makes sense to a certain degree. It has to. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know. It just,
otherwise, Putin might actually be insane.
well, he probably is. I mean, the fucker's definitely a narcissist and a megalomaniac. There's no doubt about that whatsoever.
You don't unilaterally decide to invade a sovereign nation with a sane mind.
No,
I
hell
hope
no.
not. No. Oh, Jesus.
It's kind of a bleak situation. I mean, one can only hope that Ukraine makes Russia bleed enough to where the people of Russia and the oligarchs and all the others who are essentially that Putin has to rely on in order to continue the invasion basically go, this blood that we're shedding in order to claim this country is just not worth it, and then basically end it themselves. But in order to do that, Ukraine's got to remain strong, and they got to remain armed, and they have to have as much support from the rest of the world as possible.
Well, that's where the economic sanctions are really going to come in. We need, like you say, we need Ukraine to survive long enough for the world to crush Russia economically.
Yeah.
And that's why they've been making such a big deal about the news about cutting Russia off from the SWIFT system, which is the international, basically, protocol, data protocol for transferring money between nations. And cutting Russia off, and national, like so many different countries, national banks refusing to do business with the National Bank of Russia, stuff like that is tanking their the value of their currency, the ruble.
And I hope that both the USA and China take note of this and the kind of effect that it's having on Russia when it comes to fucking Taiwan. Because if, because
China when it comes to Taiwan.
Yeah, because basically, U.S. has always vowed themselves to protect Taiwan if China tries to make a move on it, because, we recognize Taiwan to a certain extent. We still won't call it a fucking country. And then China, of course, wants to reunite all of China and take Taiwan. But our economies are so intertwined and so reliant on each other. The moment that the United States or China go to war with each other over fucking Taiwan, it will just be disastrous. And I'm just really hoping that this particular situation with Russia is serving as a, for the governments and for those that are in charge that are kind of looking at this going, well, fuck, if we actually try to pull something regarding Taiwan, this is really going to fuck shit up.
Well, here's different methodologies here. Putin has used an old Soviet tactic. This is nothing new that the Soviet Union has done many times before in the past. They found a group of Ukrainian separatists. They backed the group of Ukrainian separatists, and they used the excuse of aiding the Ukrainian separatists and accusing Ukraine of committing human rights violations against those separatists as justification for going in and aiding the separatists in taking back the land/country that they consider to be theirs. That's led to this clusterfuck because obviously nobody buys it. Look back at China when they absorbed Hong Kong. They politically infiltrated that country. They brought about their invasion and their takeover completely legally with no bloodshed. There's going to be plenty of bloodshed now. I mean, China obviously does not like it when people speak their minds. A lot of people, the journalists in Hong Kong, politicians in Hong Kong have gone to jail and will never be heard of ever again because they spoke out against the Chinese government. But all of that was done in accordance with Chinese law, which, again, they sort of injected into Hong Kong. And that's how they took it over. If they take over Taiwan, I would guess, as a complete nobody who is not qualified to speak on this topic at all, that they would run a similar game where they would infiltrate Taiwanese politics they would install pro-China elements, and they would wait. It seems like Winnie the Pooh has a lot more patience than Putin does. Which
That is true. I mean,
it just feeds more and more into Omega your rumorville about him being sickly. You know, if he's dying, well, then what does he have to lose, really? And he's got to get shit done now. But again, that's a rumor.
He also does have an election coming up in 2 years. And, yeah.
I'm sure he's real worried about that.
Well, this is the kind of thing that gives him, credibility, and, wartime presidents always pull well.
It is worth mentioning that while there are a significant number of Russian citizens who are opposed to the invasion of Ukraine, and I'm just really super impressed with him, and I support him for going out into Red Square and risking arrest and imprisonment to protest against this war, Russia, like the United States, has an awful lot of stupid people who think that, Putin's just great. So, yeah, it's not black and white here. There's a lot of gray. And there are a lot of people like the equivalent in this Trump country is going to be the people who vote Trump back into office in 2024. Fucking shit sticks. Yeah. So it feels bad to be in this country and to not really have any way to support Ukraine other than going to a couple unnamed websites and also donating money. Ukraine is accepting Bitcoin and 2 other forms of currency. It feels bad to not be able to really support Ukraine in any ways other than those, but talking about it helps.
You can straight up donate to the government of Ukraine.
You can. Go to their Twitter account. It's pinned.
You can donate from your bank. You can donate cryptocurrency. They are willing to take any help anyone can give.
Believe me, if I had the military or law enforcement background that they're requesting to go over there and knock some skulls, I'd do it. In a heartbeat.
Hey, Stephen King. Stephen King took a picture of himself in front of his library full of books with the I Stand With Ukraine shirt on. Good for Stephen King.
Well, then if you look at Ukraine's Twitter, they actually responded to him.
Yep, we will prevail over those Langoliers for you.
No.
Nice.
Like I said, Ukraine's social media game is on point. It's like they hired the people who run Wendy's Twitter account.
That's true. Wendy's Twitter account is pretty much fire.
They have a 13-year-old running that shit, and it's straight fire.
Yeah. Shit. Yeah, so Ukraine's Twitter account has pinned the tweet that has their Bitcoin address, their Ethereum address, and their USDT address. So yeah, if you want to donate, you can definitely go there.
Yeah.
There's nothing funnier than watching a Ukraine farmer and his tractor towing away an abandoned Russian tank.
God,
There's
it was
been
hilarious.
A lot of that. I've seen multiple videos of that, and I don't think it's different shots, like different cameras on the same scene. They're just abandoning equipment.
Well, if it is the older equipment, like you basically were alluding to, like if they don't have that much for newer stuff and they're basically getting rid of the old stuff, then
well, it's also
they're counting on it.
They're just reports of entire units just quitting.
Yeah.
Like I saw one video today that was a unit of, it looked about 10 to 12 Russian soldiers, and it was video taken by Ukrainians, and they were like walking away, and they were just like, and the Ukrainians were talking shit to them. They're like, "Where are you going?" They're like, "The border," and they were just done. And all the reports, and again, who knows if this is all propaganda, but this is what is being said pretty much everywhere, is that Russia Russia told its soldiers that they were going to the region near Ukraine for training exercises. And there are allegedly text messages between like a dead soldier and his mother that the Ukrainian ambassador read, and that it was like they told us we were here for exercises. Now we're in Ukraine, and yeah, it's crazy.
Then again, that sounds like fairly decent military strategy. You know, only let the people who know a thing, and just count on everyone else to just follow orders.
I mean, to a degree, but when you're sending 19-year-old kids, 18-year-old kids into a war against basically they're the same people that they are, like so many people have family both on both sides. Yeah, it's crazy that they thought that they could just march these people in there and yep, go kill Ukrainians now.
On the Ukrainian Twitter, I just got to the video where the Ukrainian woman, just a citizen of Henishevsk. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but she saw a bunch of Russian soldiers out on her street. So she went out of her house and she just bawled them out. She's like, what the fuck are you doing here? What are you doing on our lands? You're fucking invading us. What the fuck did you come to us with weapons for? And I guess it must have been a pretty solid burn in Ukraine, but she told the soldiers to put flower seeds in their pockets so that when they laid down and died, they would at least, grow flowers.
Yeah, that's apparently a proverb in Ukraine. It's like the sort of thing is like if you're so useless, you hopefully you carry sunflower seeds in your pocket, so at least when you die, flowers will grow.
Yeah,
because sunflowers are the national flower of Ukraine, so it's like apparently a Ukrainian proverb. And I've been hearing that one a lot. It's right up there with "go fuck yourself."
I do like the idea of just lay down and die.
Soldiers just standing there telling her, let's not make things worse. And she very rightly replies, how is it going to get worse? You gonna kill me? How is that worse than living under your occupation?
That's some balls. I love it.
These people, yeah, Omega said it the other day. They're made of different stuff.
They are. They're made of all things that are fucking hard.
They're just built different.
I mean, Arlie Ermy said it best. They are made of sterner stuff, and they are made of all things that are fucking hard. The only thing that is remotely close to being as hard as these people are fucking Navy SEALs. I am sorry. That is it.
The other video that I saw earlier today was I think it was a clip from Al Jazeera where it was an interview with a couple young Ukrainian kids, like 18 years old, who were helping make Molotov cocktails, and they took a moment to speak with a reporter, and the cap off was one of them said, Russia thought that they would be in Kiev for a day. Yeah, go fuck yourselves. This is great. This is a great attitude.
I mean, the fact that area lived through, the Cold War and all of the bullshit that's happened in Eastern Europe over the years, just, yeah, like, they're survivors over there.
I think one of the things I saw recently that really amused me was, of course, one of the things that Putin was trying to do was, claim, deep ancestral ties to Ukraine, that without Ukraine there would be no Russia and all this other kind of shit. And I think it was the Ukrainian Twitter that posted a set of pictures of basically Kiev in a certain time period, and then a set of pictures of Moscow that was just essentially an open field, basically denoting the fact that, essentially Ukraine and Kiev has been around longer than Russia has been.
Of course, yeah. Kiev was the seat of the Rus Empire. If you want to say that Russia started in Ukraine, that's much more accurate. That would mean that Ukraine has an ancestral claim over Russia. but it's total bullshit. The Kiev has been around for far longer than Kiev was back around when the Mongolians were still rampaging across Central Asia.
Did you know that there's actual evidence in ancient, basically that they have determined that Ukraine was most likely the place where humanity first started taming horses.
That'd be interesting. I hadn't read anything about that.
Judging from what I'm seeing, those people could fucking tame a wild horse. Jesus.
Basically, there's one of the ancestors of the modern day horse, essentially, in the various breeds that are now out there, essentially were archaeologically they had in anthropology. There's basically either it's the Copper Age, part of the Neolithic age of humanity, where there is archaeological evidence that humanity began the task, or basically began breeding and taming wild horses for the purposes of domestication.
And the other thing that we didn't that I didn't bring up immediately when we started talking about Russia's quote unquote ancestral claim to Ukraine, and that the cultures are so basically the same thing, they're not. And Omega brought up quite rightly, and I read more into it, that Russia is more interested in exterminating the Ukrainian culture than it is coexisting with it. They don't want to absorb that culture. They want to wipe that culture out and make it Russian culture.
Yes, it's not the first time they've tried to do it either. There's an entire generation of Ukrainians who speak Russian as their primary language, because there was a time where it was illegal to speak Ukrainian, and that is that is the end goal, to make Russian culture supreme in the region, and like you said, just to prove that they're right. It is a genocide. That's what's actually happening. They're trying to remove a culture from the face of the earth.
But
it is super fucked up.
The first step in the genocide is obviously to take over the country and then suppress any information that's leaving the country. This is very much like India is doing with Jabal Kashmir. When India decided to run into Jabal Kashmir and say, this is ours now, one of the first things they did was they cut all communications in and out of the region. And that allowed them to
I remember
move
that. That was
unhindered.
really fucked up.
It continues to be fucked up. They are the Hindu nationalist movement is kind of fucking scary.
Yeah, no doubt.
They're basically Nazis, but instead of believing the Aryan race is supreme, they believe that the Hindus are supreme. Yeah. Fucked up time in that area of the world, and it's gonna get fucked up in our area of the world again. For God's sakes, yeah. We got a lot of political problems in our country as well. I'm not looking forward to.
Not looking forward to the midterms, and I'm not looking forward to the next fucking 2 years.
Exactly, yeah. I'm not looking forward to legislative elections. I'm not looking forward to executive elections.
Yeah.
So.
But we're all white, so we're gonna be okay.
No, we're not. We're poor. We're not gonna be okay.
I know. I'm just trying to be a little hopeful here.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's funny until it's not. Oh, man.
Both parties have been having us fight a culture war when the real war has been a class war all along.
Mm-hmm.
I am really hopeful that next week we are not still talking about the ongoing invasion of Ukraine. I hope that by that time it stops. I know that Ukraine is holding quote-unquote peace talks on the border of Belarus with Russia, even though President of Ukraine doesn't think that's going to go anywhere, because why would the Russians just pull out? But I hope that somehow Ukraine can prevail against this, or Russia can just stop. But yeah, the point that keeps on being brought up over and over and over again is that Putin can't be seen to lose face. He needs some kind of off-ramp to make it seem like Russia won and was magnanimous in victory, in order for him to stop basically committing war crimes against the people of Ukraine.
One can only hope.
Yeah. Long story short, fuck Russia. Fuck Putin. Not fuck Russia, fuck Putin.
I don't think there is any way out, though, for Putin other than just continuing the war. Because, once you get to the point of trying to overthrow the democratically elected government of another nation and you siege their capital with their president inside fighting alongside his troops, there's no going back from that. There is no like magnanimous victory that he could claim that is, anything short of
he has to either
Ukraine being gone.
Yeah, he's got to take Ukraine and depose them, or else, it's really bleak to look at it that way, but that's definitely the only thing I can see.
On the other hand, the Russian people who are vehemently opposed to this invasion, they could try deposing him. His inner circle,
that would be nice.
Who are now being choked of their financial assets, they could depose him.
That is the one thing I'm really hoping for. That, I mean, if the economic sanctions crush Russia enough internally, that the people will just basically rise up in another glorious red revolution.
We just need one of his inner circle to get the balls to just kill him.
There's also that too. His oligarch inner circle of friends and allies and whatever just need to get also sick and tired of him and just blow him the fuck away.
Well, I'm pretty sure once they lose enough money, they are going to. So we've just got to make them bleed long enough for someone to just get fucking like, dude, we're gonna do a thing, but now we have nothing. Like, no, fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and I appreciate your use of the word friends there, because they are Putin's friends. The oligarchs are his friends in power as long as they are rich.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So they sure as shit don't like him for his stellar personality.
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Shit be fucked, yo.
Yep, a little bit. Just a little bit.
Put that. Sorry. Just a little bit.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of gaming news, and even if there was, this has pretty much been on my mind nonstop. And I run this shit show.
I mean, there was a few tidbits of gaming news related to like.
Oh yeah,
because some of the gaming companies we're doing shit and whatnot. But yeah.
Are there development studios that are pulling out their Russia? I imagine that Ubisoft must have an Ubisoft Moscow division or something that they could shut down.
I don't know if they actually do or not. I gotta look now, though. Yeah, you mentioned that, and I'm like, does Ubisoft Moscow exist?
Yeah.
Ubisoft Moscow. Okay. Hold up, just 1 second here.
Let's see here. The Bungie Foundation. Huge thanks to the Bungie community for raising $120,000 during our Game to Give for humanitarian aid efforts in Ukraine, to be split evenly across 3 partners: Voices of Children, Direct Relief, and IRC.
Mm-hmm. So, according to this, Ubisoft opened up an office to serve the growing, basically Russian market back in 2014. And according to Ubisoft's website, it's basically, they do have an office there, but there's no mention of Ubisoft pulling out of Russia.
Come on, Ubisoft.
Studios call in support in face of Russian invasion of Ukraine. Polish developer 11-Bit Studios has announced for the next week all profits from the sales across the stores will be going towards Ukrainian stuff.
Fuck yes, 11-Bit Studios are the studios that develop Frostpunk and are currently developing Frostpunk 2.
Yep,
First game
and
was
CD
excellent.
Projekt Red through GOG.com is also donating things to the Ukrainian Red Cross.
It's another Polish studio. Good for fucking them.
Yeah. Let's see here. Stalker developer GSC Game World is calling for donations to a special fundraising account set up by the National Bank of Ukraine to raise money for the country's armed forces. Good on the developers of Stalker. Let's see here.
I know that it isn't a game studio or anything, but let's see. Let's switch this up here. Australia, 14 minutes ago from CNN, Australia to send missiles to Ukraine as part of a $50 million support package.
Nice.
So
the
help.
Ontario-based Digital Extremes also announced that it's donated $100,000 to the Canadian Red Cross to assist with Ukraine humanitarian efforts. Ubisoft has also released a statement regarding its own development teams in Ukraine. The safety and well-being of our team and their families is our primary concern, and Ubisoft is fully mobilized to support the team, support them moving forward. Over the past few months, Ubisoft has been closely monitoring the situation and has put in place measures to help protect our team. The company said last week, we recommend our employees take shelter in place they consider safe. Ubisoft has provided all team members in Ukraine with additional funds to help them cover exceptional costs, such as those related to their travel and relocation, and has paid salaries in advance to account for any potential disruption to banking systems. Ubisoft is providing housing in neighboring countries where teams and their families can take shelter if they wish and are able to do so. To ensure we stay closely connected with all teams, we have set up hotlines to respond to their questions and needs and have put in place of emergency communication systems. Should infrastructure grow unstable, we will continue to adapt and reinforce our assistance as the situation evolves. That was them. Destiny developer Bungie announced on Friday that they're donating 100% of the proceeds from their first 2 days of Game to Give drive towards humanitarian aid.
That's the one that I read.
Yeah.
Somebody mocked up. Okay, I'm going to share this. Doc, you're going to get a kick. Somebody mocked up a couple of covers for Time magazine.
Oh. Oh.
Funny.
Yeah, I approve.
The guy who created it had to put out a statement after he said it, or after he posted it. He said, I created the Time cover artwork on the day Russia invaded Ukraine. The image is one out of a sequence of 3. I wanted to create something that added to the conversation around the invasion of Ukraine and captured the public mood. It wasn't originally intended to be a Time cover. The finished image was so powerful, I felt that it deserved to be framed in an equally powerful way. I feel as though the official cover by Time was uninspired and lacked conviction given the unprecedented events unfolding before our eyes. The comparison to Hitler was at the forefront of my mind because Putin is using Hitler's playbook in his diatribe claiming Ukraine as part of Russia. Hitler said the same thing in Mein Kampf when he insisted Austria should be part of the German motherland. Putin's justification for invading Ukraine is eerily similar to Hitler's pretext for seizing Czechoslovakia and Poland. I use the image of Hitler because strategic and ideological comparisons aside, he is the embodiment of evil. Thank you for sharing my art. Slava Ukraini. I probably pronounced that wrong.
Also, I don't know if this is true or not, but is it true that anybody that's in Russia that tries to go on Pornhub, they basically get this service is not available in your country, and then there's basically
Yes.
a big flag
Pornhub
of Ukraine.
Blocked him. Yeah.
We
Totally
made it.
did.
Russia.
Did we make it an hour and a half into the podcast before somebody started talking about porn? Because
Yes, we did.
that's of note. But yes, Pornhub absolutely blocked Russian users.
That's awesome.
I've heard like a lot of businesses are taking like Russian vodkas off the shelves, and like bars are serving Russian vodkas.
Yeah,
Stop selling.
Zero, your home state.
Virginia has officially removed all Russian branded or made vodkas. They have been removed off of the shelves per an order from our governor. The state of Ohio is doing the same thing, and those are the only two that I know of.
There's an initiative petition going on here in Massachusetts because we heard that and we're like, yeah, fuck, that's an awesome idea. One of Russia's chief exports is Russian vodka. So another way to attack their economy is to just basically stop buying and selling Russian vodka, which is not a fucking problem. I love vodka, but most of the vodka I buy was either made in New Hampshire or in New York.
Or Poland. There's actually a really good Polish vodka that I really like.
Yeah. There's a it's a potato vodka. It's a straight up potato vodka.
Yes, it is.
I have a bottle of it somewhere.
It's too bad we couldn't send all of that vodka to Ukraine so they could use it in their Molotov cocktails.
Saw something they were adding something to their Molotov cocktails that essentially turned their Molotov cocktails into a lesser form of napalm.
No, it's just styrofoam.
Yeah,
styrofoam and laundry detergent powder.
Oh my god!
This is all right. We're gonna get flagged for this because this is straight out of the Anarchist's cookbook. I learned this out when I was in high school.
But no, there have been videos. I've seen videos of them putting, actually putting styrofoam into the bottles with gasoline. And that's what it is. I've also seen some badass videos of Ukrainians driving up next to fucking tanks and throwing Molotov cocktails at them. Fucking balls on those people. Also, kind of disappointing to say, but understand makes sense during the current circumstances. Consumption of alcohol is now banned in Ukraine because they can't be having everybody getting drunk when you're trying to defend your country.
Also, they need it as a resource. Yeah.
I posted the top 10 Polish vodkas in chat.
I don't drink vodka. I can't. Oh, I can't.
You don't. Yes, you can drink vodka straight, but you only do it in shots. Vodka is best when mixed with something.
No, you don't understand. I can't. It makes me do things.
Oh.
Zero's relationship with vodka is a lot like my relationship with tequila.
Okay.
You know that song "Tequila Makes Her Clothes Come Off"? Yeah, vodka does that to me.
Noted.
Somebody come get him. He's dancing like a stripper.
And nobody wants to see this moving in that way. It's just not attractive at all.
So if you're a pleb and you've only ever... Sorry, yeah. If you're a pleb and you've only ever had Smirnoff or other Russian-branded vodkas, go ahead next time you're at your local liquor store. I'm pretty sure that they're going to carry Sobieski. Sobieski is an excellent vodka. And it is Polish. 100% Polish.
You're right. Actually,
right. Wonderful stuff, though, because, it burns. And, you can you do plenty with it in that aspect. But it's also, it's not the best sterilant. But it works. Kills most stuff.
It's good for a stopgap when you don't have much else. I was actually watching a clip on Twitter where basically some Ukrainian soldier was going through a bunch of MREs, essentially checking them over to make sure that they were good. And the pack of MREs that they found was 6 years old.
Yeah,
and
2015.
Yeah.
Are these Russian MREs?
Yeah,
no, these were
these were Russian.
MREs.
These were captured from Russian troops, and they were eating yeah, they were sent out there with 6-year expired rations.
No, thank you. Oh god, just the thought of it. Ugh.
I don't know. Has anybody here actually eaten like a fresh MRE?
Yes.
Yeah, I have. They're fucking
yes.
good.
They're
It's
great.
not bad. I mean, I can't speak to other countries, but the U.S. makes pretty good MREs when they're fresh. I've never tried to eat an expired one. Can't imagine.
I've
that's
never had
great.
an expired one, but I've had plenty of various types. The fucking chocolate chip cookies that they have, and some of them are just absolutely amazing, and some of them have
man.
like candy
the hamburger
bars in
Mac,
there.
dude.
Mm-hmm.
The hamburger Mac cannot be fucking trifled with.
Yeah, no, the hamburger Mac is probably the most golden. It's like a golden ticket in your MRE.
Oh,
I don't think I ever got a cookie though.
My stepdad said the best thing in the world, the best MRE you could ever get, was the hamburger Mac. He said the orange drink, Tang, I guess it is.
Yeah.
And Twizzlers. He said that is top tier right there. He said when you're over in Iraq in the middle of the desert, hamburger Mac, Tang, Twizzlers, done.
Well, I mean, like soldiers
too.
will like fucking trade things, in order to get a hold of certain MREs.
Oh boy. What I'm looking at the live updates from CNN. What still blows my fucking mind is that the road from Belarus, where obviously all of these convoys are coming from, leads directly through the town of Chernobyl. And I brought this up when Omega mentioned the radiation spike in Chernobyl after the Russian forces took it over. The reason that happened was because a whole shit ton of people were moving through that area, and they unsettled the dust. They unsettled the particulate, which is on the surface of the land, which is still radioactive. It's just not a problem because there were really no people there, and now they're still moving massive numbers of people through that area, and that is just so fucking dumb.
I think the EU like threw a legitimate like hissy fit about that because they were like, "You're fucking moving through Chernobyl," on the like that because like if that shit if the radiation levels keep going up and that shit spreads, it's just going to be bad for everybody.
Plus, what are you doing to the troops that are moving through there? I can't speak to the exact level of radiation that's just ambiently being released into that area, but the more that you kick up, the people who come after you are like getting more and more exposure. This is just poorly designed. This is just bad.
But you say that it is the time-honored Russian tradition of cheap lives.
Yeah, I was about to say they don't care if they come back.
Chernobyl, the HBO miniseries Chernobyl had that scene where I think it was Stellan Skarsgård giving this speech. We will do it because it has to be done. Yeah, that's the whole attitude. Yeah, you're gonna die, but we're gonna do it because the state tells you to do it, and the state is the people, ostensibly, not really.
Yeah. USSR was just state capitalism.
Good fucking lord.
Actually, probably the one thing that amuses me the most is the exposure of certain elements of politics on Twitter in regards to the Ukrainian or the Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Because there's a lot. Because of course you have your fair number of people that have banded together and are like legitimately like Russia bad. Support Ukraine, blah this, and then there's this like small group of people in the West here that are like, no, Russia good, and are completely showing their ass online, which is absolutely hilarious to kind of watch as these fucking internet shitlords essentially losing their ass and their minds as the entirety of the world is slowly uniting behind Ukraine in its defense, and they're just like, no, Russia's the good ones here, and I'm not gonna lie, it's fucking amusing as hell.
There is a large. Actually, you know what? In comparison to the number of people that are supporting Ukraine across Twitter, the number of people that are trying to troll Ukraine and say, look at all the bad stuff that Ukraine is doing, blah, 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 is paling in comparison. This is really, usually when it comes to a trolling campaign, it's much more impressive than whatever pro-Russian people have been able to muster. Because
it's like Russia's not even trying anymore with the propaganda. It's like they just realize that they've lost that battle, and they're just not even trying.
Well, there's actually certain I know that there are certain Twitter personalities that have recently got marked as being basically Twitter has marked them as apparatuses of Russian state media.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I also the big propaganda arm of Russia, Russian TV, or RT as it's referred to as, got demonetized on YouTube. They didn't get banned; they got demonetized. And I think they've been. I think a lot of these Russian media outlets and whatnot that have an internet presence have been demonetized across many different different platforms. And I think there's been some shit going on with Twitch and YouTube where there's been actual people who are in Russia that have been doing streaming and whatnot that have not been able to get payouts because of this shit going on.
Yeah, they've joined in on the sanctions like everybody else has.
There's a particular internet dumbass I like to make fun of by the name of Kalen Moped who threw a legitimate hissy fit because he basically lost his shit because Twitter named him a asset of the Russian media. Oh, it was funny. He was just like, I am not an asset of the Russian media. This is Western imperialism. Blah, 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 blah. I'm just like, fuck you.
Yeah, fucking boo-hoo. So there is nothing wrong with supporting the people in Russia who are protesting their government. It's admirable in that country. It's perhaps more admirable to protest in Russia than it is in the United States, because here in the United States, if you go out and you have a peaceful protest, not an insurrection, a peaceful protest, then there is basically zero chance that you're going to be arrested and you're not going to be able to find work for the rest of your life. Over there, the people who are protesting against this in Red Square, the Russian government is arresting hundreds of people that are out protesting legitimately because the protest is not authorized. Governments aren't supposed to authorize protests. Not peaceful ones, anyway. Jesus.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with saying that you support the Russian people who are going out and protesting against this. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that not the entire Russian populace supports Putin. And they're not all people that are, warmongering and want to take over the former Soviet satellite states again. There's nothing wrong with saying that you support those people. But to say that, the rest of the world has no right to talk about this. What about all the wars that the U.S. has fought? What about the illegal Iraq war? What about all that? Yeah, whataboutism doesn't fucking work. Just because we did it doesn't mean it's right. Oh. Whatever. Whataboutism just really pisses me off in general. Because just because somebody does something that is illegal and they get away with it, it doesn't make it okay for the rest of everybody else to do it.
That's true.
But whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I was vocally opposed to the Iraq War at the time. Didn't matter, but for whatever it's worth.
It's a bunch of bullshit.
Alright, so anyway, we're winding down here. It's been an hour and 40 minutes.
Penis.
Yeah, penis. As I said before, I hope that we're not still talking about an invasion next week. I hope by that time somebody in Russia has stopped Putin, or the political powers in Ukraine have found a way to stop this completely fucking senseless invasion.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows?
We shall see.
Alright, anyway. Thank you everybody for coming along. Same time, same place next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you to the all the people that tuned in on Twitch.
Russian warship, go fuck yourself. Slava Ukraini.
No fuel for you.
I was gonna say air to surface penises.
We didn't even
surface penises.
we didn't even talk about this. Wait, before we go, this is actually kind of funny too. I didn't realize that France was responsible for helming a summit in 1936, I want to say, which part of the accords that were signed, which have been in action ever since, state that if there is a military operation or a war operation in Europe, that it is Turkey's responsibility to blockade its ports to prevent passage through the Black Sea.
Yeah, they wanted to join the EU. Well, that comes with responsibilities.
They wanted to join the EU, and I believe that Turkey is part of NATO as well.
Yes. Turkey is part of NATO, and Turkey is part of the EU in a limited capacity. It's not like a full member, but there's an obligation that they have towards the EU that they have to do. So yeah, there's.
So I completely understand why Erdogan doesn't want to drag his country into war. I totally get that. Nobody really wants to go to war with Russia, not with all the nukes on the border. Get rid of the nukes. We'll have a different discussion. But there is a piece of legislation out there that is still in action that might call for Turkey to close its ports and allowing access through the Black Sea, which would be a real hindrance to any Russian forces trying to get to Crimea.
Also, I believe Ukraine and Zelensky on camera basically signed the fast-tracking application to enter Ukraine into the EU. Now, who knows whether or not if the EU will actually accept it or not, but
that was just that is a desperation move, and I don't think that'll go anywhere, but yeah, he definitely did that. And he makes a point. I mean, there's got to be protocol, right? There has to be emergency protocol in the EU.
But that's the thing. There kind of isn't. I was reading about this. Like, he's calling for it to be fast-tracked, but I think people are misinterpreting that to be like they need to use the fast-track method. I don't think there is a fast-track method. I think they can do the process possibly quicker than they have in the past, but there isn't, as far as I understand, some like formalized fast-tracking process.
No formalized emergency process.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case. Yeah, whatever it is, it'll likely take weeks to months before any sort of EU decision, membership decision can be made, unless the EU decides to say, fuck it, new rules.
Yeah.
Which, hey, that could fucking happen, and I would not put that past with what's going on right now.
One can only hope.
And Putin would cry and cry.
I'm sure
Actually, no, he'd be just full of insane rage. And then
I'm pretty sure.
If that were to happen, though, it would be an agreement with the U.S. as well that this is basically means we're going to war. Because if Ukraine is in the EU, then the rest of the EU needs to defend Ukraine. And if the rest of the EU is defending Ukraine, because the rest of the EU includes many NATO members, the US is then defending Ukraine as well. So if that is something that would happen, we would just have to know that it is war.
That is, that is why I think that it won't happen, because Biden has specifically said that as soon as U.S. soldiers are fighting Russian soldiers, it's World War III, and that is accurate.
Yeah, 100%.
Fair enough.
But, how long are we going to let Russia go without kicking their ass if they really need it?
The depressing part here is that the U.S. Is probably thinking of this in very long term. So they figure that once Ukraine has been taken over by Russia, the U.S. government will be... we won't even have to be shy about it. We will just openly support the insurgency that will be the Ukrainian civilians fighting against the Russian occupiers, which, as I said before, might take decades to accomplish anything. But yeah, all right. So anyway, if we see you next week, we'll see you next week. If not, enjoy the fallout, folks. Penis, penis.
Cue the
Penis.
50s music.